Keir Starmer is toxic and he's injecting poison into the veins of our country, and he's turning the nation at war with one another. Calamity Keir, because the public have seen right the way through him. He's a humiliation on the world stage, he's out of his depth at home, and he's got no self-awareness. We don't have a leader of this country, we have somebody on work experience, carrying bags, pretending to do a peace plan. Yeah, he's delusional, isn't he? He's an embarrassment.
This is symbolic, this two-child benefit cap being lifted, of everything that's kind of wrong at the moment.
So if you can't see, Starmer, that is fundamentally wrong and you're on the path to ruin, then you shouldn't be leading a country. You really shouldn't.
She would be incredibly dangerous.
Everybody talks about Angela Rayner as if, working class hero. I look at her and I see a fake and a hypocrite.
Welcome to today's Daily Expresso, and I'm delighted to be joined by the brilliant Westminster whisperer, Esther McVey.
Oh, and I better be on my toes today. I'm with the deputy editor of the paper, Sam Lester.
Well, it's a pleasure to do this episode with you. I know you've come down especially because MPs are on recess. So nobody's in Parliament this week. All the parties are out and about knocking doors for the local elections. How's it going?
The words I'm hearing are Calamity Keir, because the public have seen right the way through him. He's a humiliation on the world stage, he's out of his depth at home, and he's got no self-awareness. I mean, Keir Starmer is toxic and he's injecting poison into the veins of our country, and he's turning the nation at war with one another. He's turning us against one another, and the reason I'll say that, a poll is just out saying 75% of us think the country is fractured, it's broken, it is divided, and it's right out of, I'll call it the Kremlin playbook. When you haven't got solutions to problems, you push grievances and turn the country against each other, is what we are saying. Whether that's identity, age or geography, we're going against one another. That's the old versus the young, that's workers versus bosses, that's city versus the countryside, and that is what Starmer is doing.
I think that's those are really strong words, Esther, but I think it's you summing up what people are feeling. The public feel powerless at the moment. I do think that. I think people do feel that things are, Starmer's always on the wrong side of every argument. If you look at, for example, we had the big case this week, didn't we? Walker Smith, loyal Waitrose, member of staff for 17 years, and then he was sacked for tackling a shoplifter. And people just think, hang on a minute, he was the good guy. He was the one on the side of right. So how was he the one who got sacked over this? It does feel, you can't do right for doing wrong almost.
He said he'd had enough. And we've all had enough. Yeah. I mean, in Liverpool, we call them steamers. They steam into shops and clear all the shelves.
Wow, okay.
I mean, it's horrific. It's like a plague of locusts. And they are just laughing at everybody. They are above the law. And he'd said, enough is enough. I'm watching this all the time. He tried to stop them. They were eggs. They fell on the floor. Well, I can tell you here, right, we need to be on the side of the law abiding. We need police who come out and stop it. We need security guards who are there to actually keep the place secure. And if a member of staff says, look, this is wrong, he should be able to do it. But for somebody who was the good guy to be sacked and the bad guy to be let off, Waitrose has made a huge mistake. They need to give him actually a pay rise for what he's done. We all need to now be on the side of the right of the good people, because we're living in like a fearful society. And Starmer is fearful. Not only is he on the wrong side, he's weak and fearful. And that sort of goes from the top right the way through. But I think you said we feel powerless. It's a horrible place for the public to be. And I'll tell you another one, Ed Miliband. I mean, he's not drilling baby drill where we could all, have our prices reduced and have the energy security we need. No, he's pushing forward with solar panels. And this week, he, gave permission for the biggest in Britain, going against thousands of people. It's going to be the size of 10 Hyde Parks. It's going to take over 10 villages. And they're saying, we don't want it. But he didn't care.
He knows best. I think that is the problem, isn't it? That people do feel that you can vote for the party you want, but if they never listen to you and they just impose things on you, that's when you feel powerless, definitely. And I think it comes, if we could move on to something that's very familiar to you, Esther, because you were the woman who introduced it, the 2-child benefit cap. And you introduced that for a reason, because people felt that their benefit system was being abused, that if you're somebody who doesn't have loads of money but you want to have a family, you make the choice of how many children you're going to have. And there were people who were abusing that system, who were having 5, 6, 7 children, and we were having to pay for them. So you introduced a 2-child benefit cap. That's gone out the window this week.
That's right. And I will tell you, when we're talking about why things don't seem fair. So you're working, you'll say, what can I afford? Most Brits will probably have, it's a strange number, about 1.45 children. Not that you can have 1.45 children, but we're not. We think about what we can afford.
Yeah.
Right now, if you are 2 people not working with 3 children, you're going to get the equivalent of a rise in money coming to your household by £6,500. If you're on universal credit benefit, you're going to have a 6.2% increase. We're not. Most of us aren't. And that's why you're saying it is unfair. So 146,000 families are going to get this bumper pay rise. People who are having 3 kids. And I'm going to ask you, do you know, that's another thing, who were the people having 3 kids or more? Well, actually, we've got 41% of Pakistanis, 38% of Bangladeshis, and it's 14% of white Brits. So on everything, Keir Starmer is the wrong side of the argument. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at workers and non-workers, and people who are adding to society are not having kids.
Yeah.
And those who aren't are having kids.
I think that's it, isn't it? Wasn't it? It's 3.5 billion a year in total it's costing us.
Yeah. So us taxpayers are coughing up this. So on average, people on benefits are going to see a nice, 380 sort of pound rise, a week, and we are getting diddly squat.
And I think it's the first time in history where we are now as a nation paying out more in welfare than we're collecting in income tax, and this is not sustainable, is it? So I think this is symbolic, this 2-child benefit cap being lifted, of everything that's kind of wrong at the moment, isn't it?
Something like 330 billion going out in benefits, but income tax is about 318 billion. So if you can't see, Starmer, that is fundamentally wrong and you're on the path to ruin, then you shouldn't be leading a country. You really shouldn't.
Well, let's look at him leading the country, because where is he? He ran off like he always does, this time to the Middle East, just after Donald Trump had announced the ceasefire. Starmer nips off to the Middle East.
Yeah, left his holiday and then went there. And I don't begrudge anybody a holiday, but going to Saudi Arabia on some sort of what he was going to talk through the peace plan, another act of deceit and fakery. He had nothing to do with this plan. This was the guy who was a cowering wreck, always hides. He then decided, am I going to help with any British bases? Oh, maybe I am. I know I'm not. 48 hours, he does something. No, this was more sort of deceit. Really. This was more like posturing on the world stage, pretending to be somebody when he wasn't, pretending to be powerful, important when he's not.
Do you know what? I saw some great memes about this. Social media just does well on these kind of situations, doesn't it? And there was one that really just summed it up, which was Keir Starmer making the tea. And you think that's what he was there to do, wasn't he? He was just making the tea.
Yeah, we don't have a leader of this country. We have somebody on work experience. Carrying bags, pretending to do a peace plan. Yeah, he's delusional, isn't he? Yeah. He's an embarrassment. He is, he's a humiliation, but he is delusional.
So tell me, what was the point of it all? Why was he there?
So the reality was, it seemed to be to the clowns that work for him that he was polling quite well on his, this is not our war, this isn't, I'm staying out the way. So for his launch of the local elections, he thought he would do this big, I'm the great peacekeeper. Yeah. I will go and look like I have some stature, stand next to two sort of Union Jack flags, and I will make my announcement. So that's all it was. So again, a fantasy. Again, not real. And all it was about was to launch the local elections because he's going to be smashed in them.
Well, I mean, that's it. There's about 5,000 seats up.
Yeah.
Is it 134 councils?
136.
136.
Yeah.
And
that's 30 more than it was going to be. Because if
Well,
you
it
remember,
is, yeah.
Starmer didn't even want lots of places to have local elections because he knew he was going to do so badly.
Yeah.
He tried to stop the democratic process. I actually say, thank God for Nigel Farage and reform there. They took a judicial review. It was an embarrassment. The Electoral Commission said, no, you cannot just stop elections because you don't want them, because you think you're going to do sort of really badly in them. So here we are, up for grabs, and it looks like Labour's going to lose maybe 1,000 seats, maybe 1,500 seats. He's going to get a pummelling.
It's going to be a really bleak night for Labour. And again, it will throw the focus back onto Keir Starmer, won't it, and his leadership and is he actually leading the party? Sometimes it just feels like he's just kind of overseeing it like a middle manager who doesn't really have any power, but he's just kind of stepping back and letting everybody else do their jobs. And there's no leadership, there's no vision, is there? And that seems to be the issue. But who have we got waiting in the wings?
Yeah, well, limbering up on the edges is Angela Rayner. So she's like the street fighter for the party who wants to now deliver that knockout blow to get rid of Starmer. She's also seen that Ed Miliband has been weakened by the trade unions, weakened even, and this is saying something by Rachel Reeves, who's another toxic brand in the political world, because they're saying, he should drill, he should open up those oil fields in the North Sea. So she sees that as a weakened brand. So she's doing what she needs to do to be the leader. In fact, she's going to do a tour of the seats. She needs to get 80 MPs to back her, to be the leader, to come out publicly. So this is what she's now doing.
Well, I read a very interesting piece the other day saying that she's detoxing. She's come off the booze, or she's certainly cut down. She's writing a memoir. She's got a podcast now. I've been around Westminster more years than I would care to admit to, but I have seen this over and over again. When somebody's planning to stage some kind of leadership challenge, they lose weight, they have a haircut. And
it's like a list, isn't it, Tick? Angela's cut the hair, Tick. She's lost some weight, Tick. She's no longer having pint glasses. She's down to just a glass of wine, Tick. Because she thought that made her look like a leader. She thought it made her look slightly more sophisticated, that she wasn't guzzling down.
Stop the
sort
vaping
of pint.
on the
no, that was a
canoes,
bad image. The vape, the boat, the dress, or whatever. No, that was. And you're right. She's doing this podcast, Beyond the Bubble, and I have to say, the pilot. So she even did a pilot for it. She had Michael Gove on. I've worked with Michael Gove for years, and he is like the mad professor. Though I have to say now he's leaning more towards the mad than the professor. He is very clever. He is like a bubbling sort of bubbling brew of ideas. But I mean, he's left his conservative sort of values and principles. He left them a long, long time ago. He's definitely now moving over to socialism. So I can see that he's now busy mates with Angela Rayner, as they're talking about less rights for landowners and landlords and more for renters and there. So that's what he's done. And you're right, she's sort of done this memoir, but of course she hasn't been bothered to write it herself. She's got a ghostwriter.
Why bother to write it yourself if you can get somebody else to do the hard work?
Well, I see that. But the reason I mention that, and not just to be the reason I mention that is because everybody talks about Angela Rayner as if, working class hero, straight as they come, says it like it is. But it isn't. I look at her and I see, a fake and a hypocrite. A hypocrite over the fact she said nobody could have a second job if they were an MP. Unless it's her now on the speaking sort of circuit and making thousands of pounds for speeches. And then everybody has to pay the right amount of tax, unless it's her and she doesn't pay stamp duty. So that's a hypocrite on her. No working class hero to me. She's not helping working people who are paying a fortune in tax now, pushed by her cabinet. No, she's just looking about her what she doesn't need to say. Pay. And then I sort of say fake because I kind of felt, God, you can't even do your own memoirs.
It's a good point. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a good point.
I mean, and fake that she's not in her seat where she was meant to be.
Yeah.
The problem she got in all of this trouble is she went to Hove to get a safe seat far from where she comes from and the people she wants to represent in the north. No, she went to a safe seat in Hove. No, everything about her is fake.
Hove's so trendy as well. It's like, you know, it goes against all her kind of, you know, I'm a down to earth working class northerner. I think she's given up on that, hasn't she? And she's got this trendy new life now down on the south coast with all her trendy mates. It's a different world. But anyway, the thing is about Angela Rayner, you can kind of get bogged down in all this stuff, can't you? The image, the kind of the drinking, the vaping, the tax issues, but all of it detracts from the fact that actually, if she was in power, if she was at the top, she would be incredibly dangerous, because you only have to look at the workers' rights bill she's introduced and the Fair Work Agency, which has been created off the back of it. And I think it's a bit like the Stasi. What do you think about?
You're right about Angela, because I think lots of people have thought, we could maybe manipulate her. So, you know, we could get her to do things that we wanted to do. And I think that's what the trade unions are doing. But I do think deep down it runs through her like words in a bar of rock.
Yeah.
This red sort of queen, this sort of trade union sort of woman. She's never worked really in the private sector. She's never had to be a boss. She doesn't know the difficulties of setting up a business and employing people. She only sees things from a state point of view and what she can take from those rich bosses, what she can take from those people. And this, as you talk about the Fair Work Agency, is like, people are now calling it a Labour jobs police. So if they don't think you're adhering to these new Labour rules, these new workers' rights, they can do unannounced inspections, they can go into your business, they can search your property, they can get a warrant. I think people need to look at what that is all about. And this is all new laws that they have introduced and rights from day one. Some could be about sick pay, some could be even about, and I think this is a scary one, which is third-party harassment. So should you, I don't know, own a restaurant or a bar, a punter comes in, says something that a member of staff take as an insult, you as a boss now could be sued by your member of staff.
It's crazy. It's the banter ban, isn't it? It's the pub banter ban.
Yeah.
That actually, if you're, serving behind the bar and your customers are having, some humour that's seen by somebody as offensive, then you're going to get hit for it.
Yeah, and she is pushing this out. This came in to force this Tuesday. And I think people are saying, but where's it going to go? And this Labour government have pushed taxes, national insurance increase, we know that, anything else, business rates increase, all of that. But they say these workers' rights are going to be far worse. It'll cost $5 billion a year. But where does it go? There's going to be a tax from every different angle. Where does it go? Yeah. And again, you're going to have criminals being allowed to walk the streets. We were just talking about shoplifters before, but employers, bosses banged up for these new rights, which are going to expand. And by the way, this is a new quango Labour is creating. It's going to have, for its first year, £60 million to do all of this investigation into bosses. And it is like spying on people who've set up business and are employing people.
It's crazy. It sounds like a job creation scheme to me. The only people who are going to really benefit from this are lawyers who sit in tribunals, employment tribunals, and the people who are now having to enforce all these new rules. So the agency apparently has got so much money because they've got so many new rules to enforce. It's crazy.
And it is a job creation scheme, but not one that adds to the GDP of the country. No. This is what I call the 10%ers, although this is worse. So they're not doing anything. They're not creating anything. They're not getting any money in. All they're doing is spying on people and taking yet more of a percentage of your money. No, I think this is a very bad space we've gone into, and we must remember who's championing this. It is Rayner.
Well, I think, given we've talked about all these ludicrous, crazy laws that Labour are introducing or new decisions they're imposing, like the Ed Miliband and his crazy solar farm, or Angela Rayner and her new Fair Work agency, which is really difficult to say. How do we stop? You're an MP, you've been in the cabinet. How do we stop governments from introducing crazy laws? There's too many of them.
MPs need to be on the side of the public. Not like we're seeing under this Labour government where they're telling us what we should do. They are in charge and we minions underneath need to listen to them. No, they need to be on our side. And how do you do that? How do you get somebody to buy into what you're doing? They need to feel the pain of the country not doing well and the pain of them not living up to their promises in the manifesto, like growth. So I would make MPs pay now. I'd make it performance related, because I'd say at the moment we are run by a bunch of hapless, underqualified, inadequate, ill-prepared buffoons.
They're your colleagues.
Yeah, well, they're not mine. These are late.
On the other side.
I mean, it's true. Yeah. No government has balanced the books for 20 years. And actually, we need to. Debt is running away. And how do we do that? Any other business would say, we're going to make it performance related. So do you know what? If you don't do what you said you're going to do, if you haven't balanced the books, then you're going to have to reduce your pay. If you haven't got more people employed at the end of your tenure, then I'm afraid you're going to have to take a reduction in pay. Now, you might say 10%, you might say 20%. I'm sure that's up for negotiation. But you might also say, you can't run again. Yeah. You can't be in cabinet again. You're not good enough. And until MPs actually get invested in the country doing well, I can't see the MPs we've got turning the country around. And I think that would be a start. It would also be a wake-up call to this Labour government who talk the talk but actually cannot deliver. And that goes right the way back to the start of this programme that I said, a toxic Keir Starmer who's injected poison into the veins of this country, who now, because he cannot solve the problems, has turned us against one another, created grievances, so we are a nation at war with one another.
Esther, I just think that is fascinating, and I think you should persuade Kemi Badenoch to put that in the next manifesto, because I think actually people do want to see MPs taking their concerns seriously. And actually, the party system doesn't allow people to really boot people out, does it? I mean,
David Cameron made a cut if you became a sort of minister of 10% straight away. I don't think that in of itself works either, because some people don't come from money backgrounds, don't know what they're doing. So that was just a cut for a cut's sake. Yeah. Well, what was the point? That, to me, as well as gesture politics, which I don't like and I don't agree with. But I think if he used the tool of cutting pay to show, he was showing we're all into this together. It was a different time. It was like the country doesn't have much money, so we're all in it together, and he kept it going there. But I would link that to performance, because I think people can say, what was the reason? What was the purpose? Oh, I get this now. Yeah. I will work better. And then we get all the stats on a monthly basis. We know if you tax people, if you tax jobs, guess what? You see less jobs. You bring in taxes for smoking, for alcohol, you have taxes for people speeding. It's to stop people doing the wrong thing. Yeah. Tax jobs, you're going to see less jobs. Well, this government and those in the cabinet need to wake up to that, and that's why I'd link it to their pay.
Well, Esther, it's been absolutely fascinating. Really good ideas, food for thought there for our viewers. So thank you so much for joining us this week. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe or comment. And if you can hit the hype button, that would be great. See you tomorrow.
The hype.